Kusile emalangeni lamahle seyibumbene insimbi esithupha lomhla ekseni asinivusele sinomukele lomhla ehleleni Kusile Breakfast Show hlelo lakho lolithanda kakhulu ngumsombuluko uSethemba kuthini bene phela somvo lenhle nalebo sesikele sicala livikile elisha sicala langa lelisha sibonga nje umdalo ukuthi siphephisile sathe sabona lilanga lanamuhla. Very good morning and welcome kukhumbuta nje ukuthi sikhona ka YouTube ungasibukela khona ku Eswatini TV kanjalo na DSTV sikhona every day. Bito lami ngilungelele makagula anginashumi nakubili the one and only 12 Ngoni. How was your weekend? Kunjani?
It was a fantastic weekend, Lulu. I'm very good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm good.
I'm doing well. You know, my biggest hope is that everyone that has woken up to watch the show right about now, I know that you have to brave the cold. Waking up in this cold is not easy, but you have woken up with us and you're enjoying the show with us. We promise that we are going to make it worthwhile and make it feel warm as we decipher some of the developments that happened over the weekend. But, you know, notably, Lulu, I think we should highlight the fact that what we've been seeing with the weather patterns isn't something that is normal, particularly during this time. Yeah.
Simo seguquka kusimo sethu nje sifisa. I think vele ama reports lo ayavele lokuthi vele climate change ngiyo lehamba embili sakubona vele lokuthi ama weather patterns angabi ngilawo la siwajwayele liyana libamakhata liyathuma lamanyata so nje timvele tibekekile nje around this time.
Is this spring? Is this summer? It's such a confusing weather.
It's so confusing.
Yet another cold front. I believe it's a cold front. I was just looking at the forecast for the week, and it looks like it's going to be cold and raining starting from, of course, yesterday's Bonile Swinlight Dolo, leading up to Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not too sure.
It's actually the whole week.
Yeah. So we do nalapho siqwayisa nje ukuthi labataphuma baye emi-17 baphathe that extra jersey baphinze babe cautious labaqhuba imotolo emgwaqweni, even though we will get the traffic update, but asitshela ke nabo labasipopulela simo semgwaqo ukuthi ngabe imigwaqo nje wabelina yini titsikabete lokufuna sicaphele. Outside of that, it's a very good morning Eswatini. Welcome to Kusile Breakfast Show once again. We are still buzzing from a football field weekend, and we've got all the highlights lined up for you in our sports segment with Fabrice Msonera later on the show, 7:30 a.m. Now this weekend, Eswatini TV brought you a thrilling double feature, starting with Manchester United's nail-biting win over Brentford and our very own production of the Wanderers versus Sisonke game. Sisonke FC conquered the Highlanders 2-0, and we want to send a massive props to the Eswatini TV production team for pulling off a stellar first broadcast, braving, of course, the downpour, of course, to deliver top-tier coverage despite the challenging weather conditions. And, of course, for a first production to produce such a stellar production, something worthy to applaud. So everyone that was involved in the production team, from the camera people to the vision mixers to the people in studio, even Eswatini TV management, as well as the Premier League of Eswatini, literally everyone, including the fan that went to watch. Fabrice Msonera, of course, will unpack all the action from the local field to Old Trafford, breaking down the biggest moments and what's next in the season. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss it.
Kunjalo mbukeli kanti ke lomuhla langale libalekile thamande sabe senendvuna yeTinkhundla Administration and Development sikhumbuzo Dlamini tokhuluma nje ngemthetho sakhankanywa yeTinkhundla Local Government Bill. Indvuna ke tawusiniketa sithombe sokuthi itaqoqulula kanjani tinkinga letifaka ekhatsi tidzingo teMswati kusunzedwa kolisito kubantfu kulungiswa kwetakhiwo emakhaya kanye nje nemigwaco naletinye etinkinga. Bakumuleke ukuthi emavikini lengcile indvuna yahlangana nabo babe tikhulu kanye nebantfu abenkhosi ukuthatha ke imivo yabo nemibono. Indvuna ke tabe seyazivetela ukuthi kuphasiswa kwalomthetho kutowazuza kanganani eMswati. Tabe se indvuna ke tonxusa futhi sive ukuthi naso sibe ingcenye yemsebenzi yekuthathwa kwemivo nemibono ukuthi naso sitofaka sandla ekwakhiweni kwalomthetho. Tabe sicocisana nayo indvuna namuhla nga 6:30. Kongamanje sibuke nathi lethamba embili kumaphaphazapha. Anseletwe thamba imbili uYeswatini Observer lomhla ekseni. MP speaks out. I don't belong to a party. Says narrative that those vocal in Pali are affiliated to political parties is strong. You can read more on pages 2 and 3. And in other news, no need to reinvent tech wheel, says His Majesty King Mswati III. And that is a picture of him and Lipovela Nomcebo Zuma. They were hosted to a welcome dinner by President of Serbia, President Vučić. And in other news, textile workers are frustrated as working days reduced. Kanti kuletinye lethama imbili TB10 cases are on the rise, according to a nurse.
Yes, this is the Eswatini Observer Sports headlines. Making the big story there, Inzaba Ye Wanderers, ultimate victory as Wanderers stage. Judge Mamsi orders PLE to fixture Wesleyans. Is this the end of the marathon case? That is the big question. On another story, plot to remove Ali. This is a story covered by Melusim Lord. Sambabane Highlanders as they lost to Sisonke by 2-0. The Cracks and Babane Highlanders are said to be part of the clandestine moves to remove the team's boss, Chief Ali Khomongwe. On another story, Madlenya coach decries poor refereeing. Sitebe gears up for Women's Cup Kosafa. And on the last one, over 100 register for Gusekaya Invitational Race.
Moving on to the Eswatini Daily News, your leading headlines. His Majesty the King has said there is no need to reinvent the science and innovation wheel for Eswatini following the exposure received from advanced countries. He observed this during a visit to the Pioneers Institute and the Novi Sad Science and Innovation Park yesterday. And in other news, Lipovela Zuma visits ancient Serbian school. Antiguletinye Esikocheni Foundation invests 320,000 malangeni in the Maloye Primary School improvements.
Turning our attention into the sports headlines of the very same publication, the Eswatini Daily News. The big story, another wonderful verdict for Wanderers, as Judge Mamsi orders 15-team Premier League. The judge ordered the Premier League of Eswatini and Eswatini Football Association to comply with the September 27, 2024 order, where she ordered that Wanderers should be fixtured as a Premier League team. On another story, Sisonke adds more woes to Bull as they beat them 2-0 at a game that was played in Hlangana, broadcast by Eswatini TV. Curtis Jones masterclass fuels Liverpool win on a win that wasn't very, very convincing against Chelsea.
It's 8 minutes after 6. Asesel Kefu staweni Tinzaba.
Phela ama-culprits lendisa labantwana ledika ngoba umntwana lona 11 lona 12 lona 13 lona 40 lokulala nje usangakakucabanga
nangabe kunenombolo which are so horrifying and spine chilling over a very, very short space of time. Labantwana bavikelekile yini?
Inzaba ithi bantwana solo bayakhulelwa. Then the thing is what must be done now. Ngeke sihlale mengameli isigoce etandla sithi ngoba umntwana akakafanele kulala. Sidabe siyathi mislead mengameli nasiyibuka from that approach.
Ubhlungu mangabe seyiphalamende sitawuthi bampa bethu 11 12 sithaka hamba ye clinic siyomfaka implant sesimnika imvume kokuthi akalale noma singaphucuka kwani Madam President simaswati
kasho isikole esincane lesa kusingaba nenombolo engaka abantwana lokusa mhlambe ba pregnant abekho esikoleni kuyathusa kakhulu nasekuthiwa inombolo engaka ephuma esikoleni sisinye
lana sikhulumisa i-national policy umthetho waleli velo. I didn't take it from the back of my head.
Ukukhulula isitalo toda ngoba abantwana bawugcina bahlaba ngalomjovo bagcine bangasatali.
Umsebenzi wethu singemaswati is to protect the family and to protect the dignity of human lives. I've got so many of these kids. Labamithiswe bobabe labadzala babafakela ne-infection yale HIV. Akuboshwe bona.
Kusile nebenkwazi emahlokohla sisavuka sijabulele nathi tindzabate siswati silo semhlaba sithi live leSwatini kufanele lisekelane liphindze libambisane nelive leSerbia njengoba ke lamave sekagcinise aphindze yandlondlobalisa buhlobo bawo ingwenyama beyiphefumula emcimbini wesidlo sakusihlwa lapho beyisingethwe khona liphovela lazuma lo mcimbi wentiwe ngumengameli welive leSerbia kanye namake mengameli kwemukela silo semhlaba eveni leSerbia.
Mengameli welive leSerbia, His Excellency Alexander Vučić, kanye namake mengameli Her Excellency Tamara Vučić, benele silo semhlaba laphovela sidlo sakusihlwa sekubemukela kuleli Republic of Serbia. Lesidlo sakusihlwa besisekuqinisekisa lobuhlobo emkhathini kwalamavela amabili lesebuqinisiwe baphinde futhi bandlondlobaliswa bohulumende bawo lamavela amabili. Lesidlo sakusihlwa sentiwe ngemuva ukuthi labaholi babe netingxoxo tekuthuthukisa ubuhlobo balamavela amabili nekwethulwa kwetivumelwano tekubambisana emkhathini kwawo. Sesiphefumula umhlaba silo kulesidlo sakusihlwa sithe lobuhlobo emkhathini kwalamavela amabili kumele buchubeke bube nemithelela lemihle futhi lamave kumele abambisane aphindze asekelane etinhlangothini letiningi.
We once again thank you, Excellency, First Lady, for the special host of tonight's dinner. It's very special. We continue to enjoy our friendship, our cooperation. This morning we had a very interesting program where we had a lot of sessions where we met first with yourself, then we discuss bilaterals, cooperation, and so on. And then we went to see the business people. Then thereafter, I went to visit the House of Parliament, which was also a very interesting program. And we really enjoyed our stay so much. Even the agreements that we have signed is a sign of good cooperation, good friendship between our two countries. And as we are here in Serbia, we have come to give solidarity, support to yourself, to the government and the people of this great country, and also to show appreciation for all the things that your country is already doing in terms of cooperation, especially in the field of education. A lot of Mswati are here and are studying here, and they are enjoying their stay here, and we are very pleased about that. They will gain a lot of experience given the fact that this country is one of the very advanced countries amongst countries of the world.
Mengameli welive leSerbia ubongeselo semhlaba ngaloluvakasho nangebuhlobo lesebunesekelo lesigcinile.
Thank you very much for honoring us and coming to Serbia, and I'm really privileged to hosting you, and many thanks for everything you did for our friendship. Thanks that you showed that friend in need is a friend indeed, that you showed courage, strength, tenacity in days when it was not easy. And Serbs are at least very famous of one important thing, which is in fact that we are very loyal to our friends and we'll never forget it. I see future relationship between our two countries as something that will grow, will be able to increase not only trade exchange and regardless of the distance that we have between our two countries, but I believe that we'll be able to strengthen our very firm friendship and that you're going to come more often to our country. And you'll always be not only our dear guest, you'll always be one of us.
Lamavela amabili anensaya yokushiyana naligwayi kulokuningi kude naletivo letimbili tikwati kuzuza ngalokuphelele kulobuhlobo. Etindzabeni kubika Pholile Maziya, anathemba mamba eSerbia.
Silo semhlaba sesidumisele live leSerbia ngenzima ke leselidlalile kuphakamiseni nasekuthuthukiseni luhlangothi letekwatisa tekuchumana tebuciko netebuchwephesha silo besiphefumula ngesikhathi sivakashele tindzawo tebuchwephesha netebuciko eveni leSerbia.
Ingonyama yemhlaba yabekade kwatisa kuchumana nebuchwephesha ukuthi ifake isandla lesibonakalayo ekufukula nomnotho welive leSwatini. Njengoba iminyaka seyihambile tikhathi talamhla setivele tidinga ukuthi emave aphakamise aphindze athuthukise lolu hlangothi. Tekwatisa kuchumana netebuchwephesha kufaka inzuzo lelinganiselwa kulokulishumi ekhulwini emnothweni walelive leSerbia. Silo semhlaba kuleli leSerbia sivakashele letinye tetindzawo letiphathelene nalolu hlangothi. Ingonyama ivakashele i-Bioscience Institute lapho ifike yemukelwa khona tiphathimandla talelive. Le ndzawo ibuke kakhulu telicwaningo kusetjentiswa tebuchwephesha netebuciko oluhlangothini lwetekulima. Le ndzawo leyasungulwa ngeminyaka wa-2015 yasukunyiselwa ukuthi kuthuthuke tekulima ngokusebenzisa lithulusi letebuchwephesha eveni leSerbia nasemhlabeni. Le ndzawo yakha libloho emkhatsini kwetesayensi netebhizinisi. LeSwatini lisebentela ukuthi tekuchumana tebuchwephesha netebuciko tisetjentiswe kuto tonke tinhlangothi nematiko ahulumende ikakhulukazi njengoba tikhatsi setivele tibita kokuthi onke emave asebenzise lawa mathulusi. Ngako kunengi lelitakuzuza eveni leSerbia ekushiyelene lugwayi. Silo semhlaba siphindze savakashela i-Science and Technology Park. Ingonyama ivakashele le ndzawo nje leSwatini selivele linayo luhlangothi njengoba ngeminyaka wa-2018 imbubo yemhlaba yavula ngokomthetho sakhiwo sasongqondvongqondvo. Silo sineliphupho ukuthi le ndzawo igcine ithuthukile ibambe lizinga lemave emhlaba. Lena ndzawo levakashelwe silo luhlangothi lwahulumende kuleli leSerbia lwekusekela tebuciko tebhizinisi kuthuthukisa nekutsengisa imikhicito ngekubambisana kwakhe hulumende netemfundvo kanye netinkampani letingekho ngaphansi kwahulumende. Silo semhlaba sibethe sitfumsela live leSerbia ngenzima lesiyidlalile kuthuthukisa tekwatisa kuchumana tebuchwephesha netebuciko.
We from the Kingdom of Eswatini, we appreciate that we can come and get some information as to how we can make our agricultural sector more digital and so on. And as you explain, even some of the equipment that you use here, you can see that the time consumed is less and more effective and more coming with good results and so on. I guess that's why you have now come up with quite a number of a big turnover for this company. And even the way you've done it, first of all, you've looked at the UN structure, because the UN has got the 17 Sustainable Development, and you are now taking each and every one of them one by one and putting them into meaningful action. And I think that's a very good thing. We are learning a lot from what you are doing. That's a good experience and so on. So we wish to congratulate everyone who has been involved, you know, in the setting up of this facility. And we are hopeful that in the near future, we can share some of this information, because we would also like to set up similar facilities like this ones in Eswatini.
Libe basingethe ingonyama kulolu hambo bekungumfana nkosisimelane indvuna Themba Geninza kanye netindvuna tembuso letifaka ekhatsi yetekwatisa kuchumana netebuchwepheshe Savannah Maziya, indvuna yetekulima Amandla Chauke, indvuna yetemabhizinisi netekutsengiselana Mancoba Khumalo, indvuna yetemfundvo Owen Nxumalo kanye nalabamelele tinhlangothi letehlukene tahulumende eveni leSwatini kulolu hlangothi lotebuchwephesha netebuciko. Etindzabeni kubika Pholile Maziya, Anathemba Mamba, eSerbia.
Liphofela lazuma selivakashele isikolo lesidzala eveni leSerbia. Lesikolo lesikhulu edolobheni, isikolo lesezingeni leliphakeme lesibambeke lizinga letikolo temave yakamhlaba.
Liphovela lazuma kanye namakemengameli welive le-Republic of Serbia, Her Excellency Tamara Vučić, bachubekile nemisebentini ehlukene yekuhambela letinye tetindzawo kulelive. Nomhla bavakashele esikolwa lesikhulu seKarlovici Gymnasium. Kulolu vakasho-ke liphovela namakemengameli bahambe ngesitimela kuyawufika khona. Le ndlela lena yekuhamba ngesitimela ngenye yetindlela letisetshenziswako kuleli leSerbia. Ekufikeni kweliphovela namakemengameli thishelanhloko walesikolo ufike wabemukela. Kulesikolo aliphovela namakemengameli bakhonjiswe kabanti baphindze bachazelwa ngalesikolo. Befike bachazelwa ngulomunye webafundzi labafundza kulesi sikolo, Hannah Iskrini. Lesikolo lesi sasungulwa ngeminyaka wa-1791 sakhiwa ngeminyaka wa-1891. Kanike isikolo lesidzala kakhulu eveni leSerbia. Sibambe lizinga letikolwa temhlaba letitfolakala emaveni latfutfukile lafana nabo-Melika. Sikhicite bantfu bakulesifundza la sikhona khona labasetigabeni letikhulu eveni leSerbia. Lesikolo siphindze futhi sibe nemtapo wetelwati losezingeni lesetulu nelucukethe umlandvo welive leSerbia. Minister Red losebenta kulomtapo ufike wabachazela ukuthi lo mtapo lona unelwati losukela eminyakeni yema-18th century. Ngemuva kokukhonjiswa lesikolo aliphovela libe selisayina libhuku letivakashi kanjalo naye makemengameli. Kwephetha lolu vakasho makemengameli uphe liphovela tipho neliphovela lase limupha tipho makemengameli labonga nendlela makemengameli afike wabemukela ngalo kuleli leSerbia. Makemengameli uphindze wethula sipho sendlovu yemhlaba kilo liphovela. Makemengameli-ke ubonge liphovela ngalo livakasho lwetindzawo letehlukene labativakashele kuleli live. Etindzabeni kubika Pholile Maziya, Anathemba Mamba, eSerbia.
Liphini landvunankhulu imphunga Kusile Dladla selethuleke likhishi esikolweni lesincane kaLoyiwe lesikumaphungwane lelakhiwe inhlangano esiGcotsheni Foundation. Liphini landvunankhulu likhutsate tikolwa kutsi tilime tiphindze tifuye kute-ke bafundzi bangalambi kakhulukati ngoba labanye bafundzi kudla bakugcina esikolweni.
Inhlangano esiGcotsheni Foundation kulesikolo sakaloyiwe lesingaphansi kwenkundla yaseMathanjeni North kumaphungwane isebenzise 230,000 emalangeni kwakha lelikhishi nekupenda lamanye amaklasi kulesikolo. Liphini landvunankulu imphunga Kusile Dladla ngesikhathi livula lelikhishi libonge kubanjiswa kwahulumende ngalendlela.
Ku-easy ukuthi umntwana aluze i-self esteem uma athi khanza yena ukuthi ungaphasanyana. Ngiko nje sibona kwekuthi sithi make sure ukuthi la esikolweni bayalingana. Labanye babo kuletinye tindzawo bakucela esikolweni kudla bakugcina esikolweni. Sibonge iMinistry of Education ukuthi seyimlethile zondle. So lokudla lokhu lokungaka siGcotsheni, thank you so much. Sicela ukuthi kugcinwe kahle badle labantwana tinyanga netinyanga bangalambi. Singabuyi kusasa sikhanze emehlo sashobele khathi bantwana sebayawa. It's easy ukuthi umntwana awiswe indlala.
Sihlalo wesiGcotsheni Foundation Sandile Simelane ukhutsate kubambisana kwalesikolo libandla lenkundla nendlunkulu ekunakekeleni lesikolo.
Nasi isikolo sikhona. Naleli khishi likhona. Letinfo leta angeke tifike onke malanga. Nalenyela ngataba empty lekhishi. Sadeke nihamba nendlunkulu nicela nje kwesiceshana lapho ndawulima khona nakukudla lokutawungena lapha ekhishini. Asifika kusasa sitafika futhi singakasho etheji. Bese sifika sithole ekhishini khiwe. Ngoba kude ini uhulumende akakulethi kudla. Akase akuletha uhulumende kudla atfole ukuthi kukhona lalathelela etikwako nathi kukhona lesibambisa ngalo.
Ilunga lePhalamende lenkundla yaseMathanjeni North lophindza beyindvuna etiko letisebenzi nenhlalakahle yato umhlonishwa Phila Buthelezi yena ubeke kanjena.
Emave lakhulile lathuthukile ngemave la ibeke embili indzaba education. akumane nje kwendeke kube ngumlingo kuba kukhulisa labantwana ku-infrastructure lengiyo ema-resources onke abe ngiwo live ndalibona liphila in the long term. Sikudumise kakhulu lokho.
Thishela nhloko kulesikolo Majahonke Gumedze uthi likhishi bebaphekela kulo ngaphambilini belingekho nani esimeni lesikahle.
Likhishi belisidingo lesikhulu ngoba nakunatemvula njengoba konke kungena lihlobo nje bese ngakhona kupheka kuleli khishi lethu lebesinalo nalo bese livele litiwele kulomoya wakuthanda nje vele lawo labese liyaceduka ngale ngemva sedikhala nje.
Lenhlangano Isicojeni Foundation kulesikolo ayisebenzise imali leng-320,000 emalangeni lelenye ithenga ticatfulo kudla nemasokisi ebafundzi kanti iphindze yetfula netimpahla tokwembatsa kubo bafundzi bakulesikolo asakaloyiwe. Edindzabente Eswatini TV kubika Samkelisuye Khoza kumaphungwane.
Tindzaba temidlalo licembu lesisonke lincobile ke ngibabane Highlanders ngamagoli lamabili ecanzeni emidlalweni labawusakadwa bukhoma emsakadweni wetitfombe Eswatini TV. Nomdlalo udlalelwe enkundleni yeKing Sobhuza 2 Memorial enhlangano.
Sayo inhlangano lengamele umdlalo webhola kuleli esigabeni sePremier League kanye na First Division iPremier League of Eswatini ukuthi kusakadwe imidlalo yayo iPremier League siqalile namuhla lapho khona umdlalo lomkhulu bosemkhathisini kwayo iMbabane Highlanders lebeyivakashelwe ngilo licembu lesisonke enkundleni yeKing Sobhuza the Second Memorial Stadium inhlangano lapho khona umsakade Eswatini TV osakada lo mdlalo bukhoma kanti ke lamaqembu lamabili ke eta kule midlalo lena nje abakemike kahle njengoba licembu layo iMbabane Highlanders lite kulomdlalo lona linemaphuzu lamane kanti licembu layo isisonke lite kulomdlalo lona linemaphuzu lamathathu kanti ke bobabili ke lamaqembu ete kulomdlalo kunabadlali ke labanyenti labe bangekho ke noma ke labalimele labangabi ingcenye yawo lomdlalo lo esigabeni sekuqala ke lamaqembu adlalile noma belina litulu kodwa ke kuyiwe ekhefini kulicanza ecanzeni esigabeni sesibili lapho khona sibonile umceceshi wayo icembu layo isisonke Mbongiseni wakamamba endetona tinguquko letilisitile phela lelicembu ukuthi lithole emagoli lamabili lebende ukuthi linqobe ngawo lawo magoli lawo lamabili kanti ke umceceshi wayo yona iMbabane Highlanders Mthunzi wakaGininza ukhala kakhulu ngabo badlali bakhe labangekho kodwa ke uyasho ukuthi akade ukuthi kutawusayini angumceceshi wayo iMbabane Highlanders.
Some group of supporters are invading the training ground. We train in the fear because lokho bese kwenda lokho ukuthi asikavikeleki because now tokuqhamuke ama supporters aqhamuke groundini without inangzana securities.
Okay.
So kuba kabi lokho and if these things are like this we are compelled to even me just to step down because
okay.
If my boss is just forced out, is the one who employs, the one who have to pay us, the players and the coaches. So this might be my last game under these circumstances because this thing is painful. Where we're supposed to regroup, this team is about 95% new players. We need just to integrate this team. But when people are chaotic, are forcing the boss out, I have to step down today, maybe, until maybe we meet the boss and sing the go ahead.
Kanti ke umceceshi wayo isisonke Mbongiseni wakamamba ukhulumile kakhulu ukuthi bete kulomdlalo lona balungisile bebati futhi nato tinkinga tayo iMbabane Highlanders lokutaba sita kakhulu ukuthi bathole wona lamaphuzu lamathathu basachubeka nayo phela isizini njengoba balicembu lelisha kaPremier League.
Besimfuna kakhulu njengalokho sasho solo sasho phakathi ukuthi besimfuna kakhulu and i-team yethu besilungiselele kakhulu beyifit but nyalo lese sikufunzile ukuthi akufuni siye go any game sithi siyodlala game an open game because most of the teams vele asasithatha ngesima team la team lenqane so avele wona as attack masinyane athafuna an early goal just like all the other games esizwadlalile bokhanza ukuthi vele bas attacker nani so if you can notice le game le besidlala nje almost more than 5 corner kicks first half kusho kona ukuthi vele bebas attack.
ungadlali kahle-ke kwelicembu lebabana Highlanders kulo mdlalo wanamuhla batawuthemba ukuthi badlali labangekho labasiphohlongo labalimele batabe bakhona-ke emdlalweni wesibili lolandzelako kanti-ke nawo isu sonke njengoba seyithole wona emaphuzu lamathathu phela nelicembu lelikhulu lelinamlandvo lomkhulu ebholeni yakuleli kutabasita kakhulu ukuthi bangadliwa inkemba yayo isizini 2024-2025 kanti-ke nawo umsakazo Eswatini TV unalo lithemba ukuthi tinkulumo noma zivumelwano labanaso nayo inhlangano yePremier League utawuchubeka ulethele yena umbukeli wayo Eswatini TV yona imidlalo yayo iMTN Premier League yeminyaka 2024-2025 lobekela umsakazo Eswatini TV kutemidlalo ngilinda Dlamini ana Fabrice Msonera sisenkundleni King Sobhuza II enhlangano.
Linda Master Dlamini zathele umsakazo yetemidlalo sibikela ke ngawo umdlalo lobemnanzi kakhulu osakatwe ngiweSwatini TV tolo eshiselweni sitawuba hlolet market ngekubuka simo selitulo sase sibuya sicocisana nayo indvuna yetinkhundla nethuthukiswa kwato esikhumbuzo Dlamini.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you'll go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience in the kingdom.
Asifundze sinemukele sakuvusela nawo losanza kusivulela bezivetile ukuthi sidabe sikhulumisana nendvuna yetinkhundla sinokhuluma kabani nje ngetinkhundla local bill kwamanje kusathathwa imivo kanye nemibono yesive kanye nabo babe tikhulu bezivetile ukuthi sidabe sikhulumisana nayo indvuna yalo litiko sikhumbuzo Dlamini kuva ukuthi ngabe lasephasisiwe le bill lena engabe itawushintsha kanganani impilo eMswati isive seMswati sitawuzuza kanganani ngekuphasiswa kwalomthetho ndivuna sikuvusele sikumukele lomhlahleleni Kusile breakfast show sabanga ukuthi benathi lomuhla sinibonile solweni ehlane inyuka nisatha imive kakhulu kade nje yabo babe tikhulu nebamfa benkosi ngawo lomthetho losakhankanywa khona eParliament ngabe kahle vele mangabe sithi sophasisiwe lomthetho itawuzuza kanganani
azivusele msakade sibonga lithuba lesilitholako eSwatini TV Kusile breakfast show kuthi nathi bekhona sikushoko kusheshele eMswati lokuthi sesikuphi litiko ngalendzaba yokwakha imimango slogan sethu kulamalanga etikweni njengisho umthethosisekelo sithi sive sikhulumile sesakha imimango kanye nako lesikushoko ke lokho ke lomthetho we local government lapho khona umthethosisekelo utawukhumbula lokuthi ivela kangwane latibophelela ukuthi libe nomthethosisekelo ngomnyaka wa 2005 angafiki ke lo mthethosisekelo ukuthi uphasiswe ngayo 2005 livela kangwane laphakamisa uhulumende waphakamisa umgomo wekusebenta lokuthiwa ipolicy i-decentralization policy lele policy ikhulumisa lokuthi utaya kanjani uhulumende lengaphandle lephasi kulamaswati. Le policy ke nayo silamalanga siyayithinzitha nje sizama kona kuyi-aligna ngoba utawukhumbula lokuthi yona yaphakanyiswa kucala umthethosisekelo. Kwase umthethosisekelo soyaphasa yashicilelwa ngalo 2005 shothi semye. Na ushicilelwa ke nyalo sesiyabona lokuthi ikhona ikhala kule policy lapho khona vele ingasho khona ngalokucacile lokuthi lo hulumende vele utawuya njani lephasi kutawuya muphi maphi ma services because umthethosisekelo wethu uyasho lokuthi live la kangwane liyawuthi li decentralize by devolution. So ufuna sathi ke lokuthi ngumaphi lama functions lawa devolva kohulumende lomkhulu lawa mixa lephasi. Siphinze futhi kumcoka lokuthi sathi lokuthi ngumaphi lama functions latawenda uhulumende lomkhulu. Iphinze futhi nemimango noma ke uhulumende abancane lephasi bayende. Phinze futhi lo mtselelo le policy ufuna issue lokuthi ngumaphi ke ama events noma ke ma functions latawuvele wona endiwe imimango yodwana angawathinzi uhulumende lomkhulu. Kungako ke sesivele sisinta lo mthetho sitawukhumbula ke lokuthi lo mthetho sisekelo wona usho kahle lokuthi kuyafuna ukuthi ngaphela iminyaka lesihlanu ungakashaya lo mthetho we local government. Sekuzelichi ke emsakadi lamhlanje ukusikhuluma sekuphela iminyaka lesabalele vele waphasa umthethosisekelo litamleke lituka nengilokuthi lo mthetho lufuce noma ke ukhankanye kodwa ke wehluleke emahlandla lokunje sosichubeka namhla kuhlandla lesine lamhla solusuzama kodwa ke nyalo sicanga sesibambewe nambamba nyalo. Sitawukhumbula ke lokuthi lokunyento ethi ungaphumeleli kube ngilokuthi sikhanze lokuthi bokhanza lokuthi sina kujubelisa asicomply namthethosisekelo lo chapter 13 lokunclose section 218 kuya ku 226 lapho khona kuchaza kahle lokuthi uhulumende uyawusebenza kanjani kwakha uhulumende wasemakhaya kwakha lemimango. But ke nyalo vele ingcodo lemithetho isibambisile kakhulu kuhlola lokuthi vele yini lo nathi sifail endleleni sesingenta kanjani singafail nyalo sithemba ke lokuthi nyalo kuthi indlela kwehluleka nyalo ngoba Mswati vele ayasibambisa impela. Sesicalile ke vele umsebenzi ithi iparliament nayingena live lisumza umsendo weparliament imbubo emhlaba esibayeni kwacela ukukhuluma lesive esibayeni savele sashiya lokucacile ukuthi sinemthwalo ukuthi sibuke indlela ukuthi uhulumende semixa njani emakhaya. Uthe ke sesishilo sibalo koyathi imbubo emhlaba mase yicitha sona sibaya yavele yasikhomanda lo ukuthi ngilelo tiko aliphume lithethe lomgodla godla wesibaya ngilo yakhiphe lokungekwakhe etikweni lakhe awusebenza kona. Nathi ke vele lokwavele kwahamba embili kwaba ngikolo ukuthi asibuke indlela ukuthi uhulumende uyanjani lekubandvu afike lula afike dudane futhi kube kuyi-quality service. Indzaba service delivery ke vele kuyasibuka kakhulu nje kungako indzaba ye-decentralization vele i-priority lokusebenza kwalo hulumende lokhona nyalo. Lokusikhuluma nje nyalo sesivele sicalile ama-consultations ngawo lo mthetho emalangeni nje lendlulile sinabo babetikhulu lezivele sichubeka nabo nakuleli viki nje selibonjeni sicitha ngamanzini evikini eliphele bekuneshiselo naho sesibonile i-Elections and Boundaries Commission nayo le very key stakeholder kulo msebenzi ngoba uthi umthethosisekelo ngiyo le uthi bese seyidweba lemimango ngekubuka into ethithite kubuka umnotho waleyo ndzawo kubuka inombolo debantfu nekuthi lenza wemenjani nje nalokunenge lusho ukuthi ke vele iba key stakeholders esicale sabavusela ke nabo ukuthi bafake umvo wabo nabo lomthetho sesibonile bayabo chief kuleli viki nje singaphela eliviki sitawubona emabandla akangwane emabandla kweluleka lapho khona kunelibandla lelicoco kunelibandla laseludzini kune border restoration kule land management onke nje amabandla latsinzekako sitathe siwabone phindze nahulumende sambona onke amatiko bo PS siphume siye malungene eparliament siwabonile ama portfolio committees sitawuhamba siyawubona ema councils etinkhundleni bobucopho sibone emadolobha bomeya bo CEO ngaturunhlangano tabo lokuthi bathini bona ngoba lokushona constitution ukuthi lokwakhala imimango bathi lokuhlanganisa uhulumende wasedolobheni nalwasemakhaya abe munye kube ibe yindlela ekuphathwa kwemimango lengaphandle kubethe lokuthi kuna umasipala edolobheni kunetinkhundla emakhaya sesifuna kwenda kunye nyalo njengoba sithunya umthethosisekelo lokuthi asikwende kube kunye kube tinkhundla based phindze futhi kucedze lo mehluko emkhathini wetinkhundla namadolobha kungakho sosichuba na consulta ke bonke sibatsinza nesive ke sonke esiphelele naso sithatsinza lokuthi sithini sona sesivele sicalile ke kunenhlelo
kuhlaba limi nje minister mhlambe kungakanzi esiveni sifuna konje ukuthi ngambe kusivetela nje sithumise ukuthi njengoba ushito ukuthi senibabonile boba betekhulu nebantu abenkosi kepha nisachubeka nekuhlangana nabo ngabe kuveta nje leyo mivo labayivetile mhlambe nemibono nje letawufakwa ekwakhiyona kwalomthetho.
Siyabonga Mswati boba betekhulu awubasukumile basibambisile kakhulu kwecanje singakudumisa ngabathi nombolo umgcumo wabo vele besetulu kakhulu bakhombisa lokuthi vele kutotekwa indzaba lebatsinzako basibonisile ke bekunena baphinze futhi bafaka bakufakako nabo lokuhamba nje embilini lokuthi bacizelele lokuthi konke lesikwendako silitiko noma singihulumende asingakhohlwa ukuthi livela kangwane through umthethosisekelo likhungelwe kuphi livela kangwane likhungelwe khona ebukhosini kubo bukhosi likhungelwe kubo bayibotikhulu le yonke lentuthuko lentekako isuka lephasi ufuna ukuthi isuke emphakathini isuke endlunkulu ikhuphuke iye enkundleni ihambe yesifundzeni ihambe bese yakumenje lomkhulu le kube besivele sikubambe kahle ngabe side inkinga ye decentralization empeleni because vele thina le setup yethu njalo live lethu yalokuphathwa kwalo livele li decentralized because nengonyama isenayo ikhulu letile phasi ehlana labantu leke labakushito ocanje boshifu ngilo ukuthi nanda benkosi aphethe imanga bukwemango base vele bacela ukuthi singabakhwesheli kakhulu sisakudevelopa konke kuze kuthi kutoba ngilokwethu asiku align nalokusebenza kwethu nalemiphakathi losho ukuthi nayo asishintshe indlela ukuthi iphatheke kanjani ikakhulu elihlangothweni lokuthi the general administration of intuthuko nje emphakathini ayibe ngilehlelekile kungakho nje kule bill sikufakele ukuthi vele wonke umphakathi wevela kangwane kuyaba nesenti sembuso lesibekwe khona lesiyawuthi sibuthe konke lokho lokufuna kulommango lokushoko lommango bese kubhaleka kahle kutoba nema proposals la kahle kuze kuthi kusuke kuye enkundleni kuqolekile nase kufika enkundleni vele ngoba vele indzaba ziyaphela enkundleni yalo ayisayemba abani indzaba nyalo indzaba itinenge vele nasi phela enkundleni lapho khona kuyabe lama councils asavele athatha inqumo ngoba lokuya kwahulumende emakhaya loku devolve ama functions loku local government ngilokuthi kufuneka leti inkundleni laba lesibakhethile kube ngiba decide ukuthi athile ama priorities alenza labakuyo shothi ngiloko nje lokukhona nyalo labakusho bayaboshifa aphinze bagcizela ukuthi kubuyisa sifundisa le live kumqondo ukuthi litiko kenyalo ngaphandle nje kwala ibhili lokuthi livuse imiphakathi leminye ukhanza ukuthi kumnyama akukhanyi akavalela kude uyifencing akusiko nje vele secured bacela baboshifu lokuthi asikwende vele kube priority lokuthi le miphakathi yavikeleka njengoba usathi silivele buyaphi nje labanenge abantu batingenela nje bashisa imiphakathi ngoba vele bekudele bekwendiwe in terms of ukuthi kuvikeleke le miphakathi nekwekuthi ke vele sesifikile isikhathi basakhuluma nje ukuthi kube ne budget emphakathini noma ngabe hlele esifundzeni ku regional administrator but sikhulu nabe noma libandla lesikhulu nabe lisebenta lingastruggle ukuthi ngaze lihluleke neba na 2000 rand wena noma ngawani umsebenzi nakhwale funa sikwendiwe kuthenga stationery kwendalo kanalokwa selihhovisi phalela vele lisemthethweni alikhone ukuthi litawu requisite lokho lokufunekako likhone ukuthi lisebente lingavinjwa imali shothi nako nje bese kubeka embili labakusho bayaboshifu nathi ke silitiko sitakubuka vele ukuthi yini lesingayenda ngoba enhlitweni elitiko vele siditshelele ukuthi kufuna ukuthi imiphakathi vele ibe sibuko sale live
sibuyele emuva iminyaka nophelile endvuna esibayeni sive seMswati saveta inkinga taso letiningi lokhathi yona corruption lentekako khona emimangweni nangabe sebesifuna kuyokhonda saveta indzaba yetakhiwo leseyigugile saveta nendzaba tindzaba nje letiningi temsebenzi tekwesolakala kwemsebenzi ingabe le umthetho lona sophase siwi utawukhona ukuthi i-address tonke letinkinga leti yabativeta isibayeni
asibonga kakhulu Mswati liqiniso lithi tinkinga dingete taba addressed tonke ngasikhathi sinye nalo mthetho ushaya konje lo sivele sifakile la mthethweni lo ukuthi nala ama functions atawehliswa kancane kancane ngoba na ungathi ufuca konke ungakhanza lokuthi iya collapse le system le pass ngoba kusafuna abantu ba adapt bafunze lokuthi tandeka kanjani but ke liqiniso lithi lokunenge kutawusombululeka nangabe kungaphasa lo mthetho lo ikakhulu ngoba labantu bathi decide la sengibekisa nje Mswati nangabe kungathiwa encede indzaba demigwaqo wasemakhaya ditaba decentralized noma ke le function yakhona yehliselwe etinkhundleni utawukhandzela ukuthi inkhundla ngenkhundla inemshini yayo inento yayo tekusebenza enzayo emgwaqo leqiniso lithi kukhala ngemgwaqo wasemakhaya ama-feeder roads kutaba a thing of the past awuphinza ukhale ngemgwaqo wasemakhaya losho ukuthi solution leyo imisebenzi utawukhandzela ukuthi seyikhona imisebenzi lecatshangwa ngilommango lephasi bese iyasukunyizwa lemisebenzi bacasheke bantu than lokuthi lamuhla kutanga ukuthi uhulumende lomkhulu ucabanga ukuprioritize kanjani lamhla ngileyo nkundla itabende emsebenzi wayo lokukhona nje tawugatsa ibudget uhulumende lomkhulu ukuthi ayiphakele yonke local government local authority nase ayiphakelwe sekukuyo lokuthi no thina sicine kulimeni indzawo yethu inhle kulimeni asikhenze inzathe kulima thina vele akulimeke kumbe asigijimele indzawo ehlahla kulima ehlahla noma ke thina awasende emafema ema-industries vele sho silabangileyo mmango ubuke lokuthi ingabe yini lekhona ngakithi kunemcebo waphasi utawukhandzela ukuthi kule yakithi indzawo sitawubona lokuthi kunama minerals la yini lesingayenda kwana nathi sibe ne responsibility ukuthi siyafuna ama investors ukuthi ato investor la tindzawo temsebenzi bese tiyaphela indzawo tephuya bese tiyaphela bese bahlala kahle bantfu emimangweni abahleli khona
usinze i-decentralization indvuna ingabe vele mhlambe senihambe kanganani nje vele nilitiko kusonzeta lolusito esivene kakhulu kade etinkhundleni ngiyakhuluma ukuthi kwamanje sesekuncane kakhulu tinkhundla leti provider lusito lelidzinga ngiso sona lesive ngabe kuphasiswa kwalomthetho kutawu speed up le process ukuthi mhlambe sibone lusito lungeteka etinkhundleni ngoba kwamanje ngisesela ekalobamba mhlamba nyathi ntankhumuta nakiphi lenye inkhundla minister ngabe vele utita ungeteka etinkhundla lapho utawutfolakala lusito lolitsingekile
siyabonga tonke tinkhundla tiya provide ama services njengaloko ngishito nje lokuthi ngente kwafika kongelanga linye ukhanza ukuthi kuletinye vele kuna one lokwentiwako kuletinye sekunenge njengoba soba lebo lobamba nje bolugongolweni bomhlambanyansi lapho khona khansi amaningi lama services but liqiniso lithi sibheke ukuthi yonke inkundla ukhanze ukuthi ungente wajika nje ufuna certificate kuyentiwa vele inkundleni lokho kodwa ke bese bayayita inkundla ke vele leta futhi khanze process ekunginenge lokutholako kodwa liqiniso lithi silitiko senda ngokusemandleni lokuthi kufuna ukuthi ngekutse ukhanze letinkundla sethi nengakhulu ndawubekisa nje ngithi nakubuhle kuhulumende emaphakelo atholakele ngayo lokufanele njengaloku siwacelile sitacela futhi nalonyaka kunabo methula inkundla ngimethula kunabo mayiwane lebeyavela i-service center washiswa sifuna kubavusa kunaletinye inkundla lengeti ngadibala kumbe tonke lapho khona sibheke kusomnyaka lona akasiphakele uhulumende sivele sitakhe tibe ngilendlela lensha vele tibe one ngama-service centers so ngama-service wathole phindze futhi tilungele lenze baka local government lokuthi vele sikhone kusebenta vele through le dispensation lensha lapho khona sakha khona imango so singafishane ama-services vele yonke inkundla vele ukuthi i-provide ama-services kodwa ke sitawakhulisa kancane kancane lokuthi agcina amanenge kodwa nasingena ku-local government lapho vele ngwala ukuthi kutabe kusho lo mthetho lokuthi leni function nalena siyabantu ngahulumende lomncane lengaphandle lapho ke tasiphocelela vele kungakuthi jeke lomthetho ngathi tasiphocelela silitiko noma sengihulumende ngeke siye ngeleisure lokuthi siva ngathi yakhona yini mase kungumthetho sitawufuna imali ukuthi vele kwendeke lokuthi lawo ma services la kuthiwa are devolved akavele endeke masinyane lawo ma functions atfolakala etinkhundleni
so lapha ekufakeni kwemivo nemibono yesive ndivuna ngabe lokho kunikwenda kanjani senicaleni nenikwenda ngoba uvetile nje bensacala ngabo babe tikhulu nabantu abenkhosi indawo behlela bo PS bo CEO ngabe sive nihlele ukuthi nidawo ithatha kanjani imivo yaso
sive ngoba indzaba yetimali akusiyole kahle evene ngeke kufihle lokho nasetikweni side imali enough ukuthi besingafika konke umuntu ngoba nje ke sitawuthi buka inhlelo ukuthi sifika kanjani letinye indzawo singafika khona kodwa nje lokukhulu okuhamba embili lapho khona tanda kusilonke eliswati likhona kufaka umvalo khona kunema systems ezwa put in place ngekubanjiswa nguye UNDP kusibambisa somsebenzi wendeke ngwavela umgcoka lomsebenzi lapho khona sitawukhona ukukhulumisana neMswati through TikTok through Facebook nalamanye nje ama-links nesisabe sinawo sekukhuthaza neMswati lokuthi naso ubonile ukuthi ngalapha selikhona line vele ufake umvo wakho nathi sisabe siyenda le feedback mechanism le ukuthi siyithole yonke lemivo naledzinga futhi ukuthi ikhulumise sisaboza sithola lithuba lokuthi site nje khona emsakadweni ngahlona imisakazo stipend vetele indzaba ngoba leti into khanza lokuthi tiyadzinga ukuthi stipend vule vele ukuthi semaswati athole comfort lokuthi lokula kushoko vele siyakulalela siyakuva and is consent ngekuthi ufuna ngene kulomthetho.
Yeah, kepha mfuna ukukhumbuta nje ukuthi this week indabe nikuphi nivakashela bobani kutfola yona imivo.
Kuleli viki lesikulo lamuhla nje siyacala nabantu benkosi laba bukemango babethi ikhulu baselubonjeni lonke libombo siyahlangana nje siyawuteka itindzaba esimunye tawuthi ke sicedze kusasa nabo bese ngalesithathu sitawucala nabantu benkosi babukemango nabo babethi ikhulu base sifundeni sakamanzini lapho khona nakhona siyawutsa khona imivo yabo ukuthi bona bathini lo mthetho kuyawuphela ngalesine ke kuyo lo lesine ngoba lo msende vele sikhomba kujaka lona vele ngoba sive siwufunile sitaphinza ngalesine futhi bese sesicala nemabandla lamanye kufaya khathi libandla lelicoco nelibandla libandla lasemthethini bese bayile management board bo Friday nabo libandla le border restoration bese nje onke lamabandla sibuke sileli viki efuna ukuthi siwasebente siwacethe kuze kuthi tokuchubekele embili siye nasesivene naseTinkhundleni siyawubona ama councils ukuthi wona angathini ngoba nabantu aba affected kulo msebenzi lo ngoba le ndlela seyakhako ngilendlela labantu abatawusebenza ngayo futhi wonke umuntu ufuna sifike vele kuye.
Kwegcina nje ngivela ngiyakhumbula ukuthi ku symposium lebe ikhona this month ukhuluma ngenzaba yemisebenzi ingabe isafe imisebenzi yebantu yeservice Mswati ukuteni mhlambe imisebenzi etawuthike beteka noma bamvu labatawulahlekelwa imisebenzi naso phasisiwe lo mthetho.
Asibonge tindzaba temsebenzi di trick ngeke ukuthi umsebenzi ngeke ulahleke futhi ngeke ukuthi umsebenzi abakhona ngoba umsebenzi kuyangalo ukuthi ukhona lo ufunako ngento yakuvalekela nomnyango uvulekela omnye umnyango but lokhu i-guarantee ngalo mthetho odako lo ngilokuthi takwanza imisebenzi ngendlela esimanga itawunswayini ngele imisebenzi ngalesikhathi sikwenaba lo hulumende ale phasi utawukhanza different sectors asaba operationalized leTinkhundleni kutawuthi ngamo personnel vele lotho tawufuneka abantu liqiniso lithi ke uhulumende lomkhulu bakhona abantu vele labantu aba redundant uhulumende lomkhulu but lengeke ngitsenga sibaye ekhaya labantu lama skills abo afuneka mbamba le kuhulumende lomncane ngoba lo kwento lokuhulumende omncane ngilobe vele solokwentiwa manje nyalo sokwentiwa thutana labantu losho sikafishane umsente wami kakhulu sisangifuna nje cambe manga utaba mningi kakhulu nakulamanye amavesi wahlolile sikhanzelwe ukuthi i-local government ngiyona icasha kakhulu nakuhamba kahle kuna le main government ngoba bohulumende abancane laba ngohlukana kwabo bagcole lonke lelive njengoba Tinkhundla kangwane 59 kulamalanga shothi lamhle Tinkhundleni enkwene sinebantu labacashwe ngohulumende kunamabhalane na typist na cleaner na groundsman bangu4 kuphela but nakugucwa by local government local authority enkwene bana batawucashwa enkundla zenkweni batabangedulu ka50 close to 100 ngoba tabene ba agriculture bakabantu bani sibakhwa lenkweni enkundleni ngaphandle kwalo madibhane labale on site balimisi lena tabene baphathi balimisi kwa lenkundleni losho umsebenzi bangethuke eMswati akawusupport lo mthetho lo ngilotawuvule mathuba futhi iphinze usita uhulumende lomkhulu kunciphisa yenza ye-wage bill kuhulumende lomkhulu ngoba abantu batawuhla bayibonda labalephansi basehla ke uthi lo mthetho labo uhulumende labancane batawukwakha imali batayifaka ngendlela ehlukene ekucala indlela kutaba ku subvention noma grant wangihulumende lomkhulu kwesibili kutaba ukuthi batakhele yabo imali ngohlukana kwetindzawo ngidawubekisa nje nangakusamba bane local authority local government eZimbabwe uthi soyinkundla local authority ngabekisa kukhwa veti imali adresa do number bani le angeke uhulumende lomkhulu lelo imali leto tisame khama ngoba sibakhwa ukuthi raise yalabantu nase lalenye inkundla esemakhaya itawukhona ukuthi nanayo bese seyenta kanjalo nayo siyathi raise letinye imali ngohlukana kwathi ngathi balance ngabangidiphi but dokhanza lokuthi uhulumende lomkhulu soba nendlela ukuthi letinye imali bathi khona ukuthi raise labantu shothi kafishane nje indzaba yemisebenzi abantu abakhululeke umsebenzi akwanza kakhulu bekunene
no ngiyavakala simakhulu ndivona isikhathi sakho nomhlambukeli bekunguye minister for Tinkhundla sikhumbuzo Dlamini sivitela nje sithombe semsebenzi lochubekako kulamalanga lapho bakuthatha khona sive nemibono yesive samaswati ngekwakhiwa kwemthetho eTinkhundla local government bill saselkhefu sabene traffic update.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you'll go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience in the kingdom.
Asenze sinamukele nge 4 minutes before 7 sawufuna kuva simo semgwaco lomhla ekseni nantombe enhle fakuthi mntolo asekuvusele kuhambe kanjani lomhla ekseni emigwacweni elive.
Ngikuvusele Magagula, ngivusele naye umbukeli wemsakato. Imigwaco elivela kangwane sesihlolile, imigwaco leminingi yelive iyashelela nyalo ekseni kwathi sephela ukuthi solo litulu linenjalo sithi nje bashayeli basasebenzisa yona imigwaco. Abendesinseko ukuthi bashayela ngelitubane leliphasi nekokuthi ke balanzelana ngetigaba letifanele noma ke letigaba letivulelene kuze ukuthi nangabe lomunye sekayidilika leyo motolo akhone ukuthi ayibambe ngesikhathi ingaze ishayisane naletinye imotolo. Nekukhuthatha ke kubo bashayeli basasebenzisa yona imigwaco kuleminye imigwaco siyanaka lokuthi kunetigodi emigwacweni noma ke ema-potholes. Lenyalo lolu lina lelitulu ukhanza lawo ma-potholes sekagcwele wona emanti lokulukhuni ke kulesinye isikhathi ukuthi umshayeli abone ukuthi leyo mgwaco loyo sowunebungoti sithi nje bashayeli ngaso sonke isikhathi labangaboni kahle khona abalinciphise litubane kuze ukuthi baphephe basasebenzisa yona imigwaco. Emadolobha elivesi wahlolile nawo tibane temgwaco lesekhathi edolobheni elikhulu lasembabane lesiseceleni kwemakethe lenkulu atisebenzi nyalo ekseni sithi nje bashayeli basasebenzisa leto tibane temgwaco ababeketelelane lofike kuqala ahambe kuqala kuze ukuthi sigweme kwenteka kwadoti ingoti khona lapho. Umgwaco lomkhulu osuka khona eNgwenya uye khona kaManzini siuhlolile kufaka eKhathi Malagwane. Lesingakubikela nje noma ke lesingakukhuthatha kuye losebenzisa yena umgwaco nyalo ekseni kungaba kusho nje ukuthi Malagwane uyashelela kakhulu noma uyakhuphuka noma uyakhuphuka noma uyehla. Sithi nje bashayeli basashayela litubane abaligade kakhulu khona lapho kwathi sephela ukuthi umgwaco nawushelela siyayisivame lokuthi sibe letingoti letinengana khona kuMalagwane sithi nje nasiyusebenzisa kulolu suku lwalamuhla sente isiqiniseko ukuthi leyo motolo siyalinaka kakhulu litubane nasesengcileke bese ke sesiyakhona ukuthi siyikhulukhulule leyo motolo. Ekhathi edolobheni kumathapha nakhona sihlolile tibane temgwaco yasebenza tonke ngalokufanele. Lesikunaka konyalo kunebantu labanengi labahamba ngetinyawo khona eceleni kwemgwaco labanye ke baphethe tonatambulelo sithi nje bashayeli basashayela khona lapho litubane abaligade kwathi sephela ukuthi nabahamba baphethe tambulelo ukhanza ukuthi abasakhoni kusheshe bayibone leyo motolo bayibone sebasekhathi emgwacweni sithi nje asinakisaneni kuze ukuthi nabo labahamba ngetinyawo baphephe. Ekhathi edolobheni ngamanzini tibane temgwaco lapha eceleni kwaseFootliner atisebenzi namuhla ekseni bashayeli bayakhuthathwa ukuthi nakhona lapho banake basasebenzisa wona umgwaco. Sifundza saselibonzeni naso saseshiselweni nato etotfunza leto sihlolile futhi lokungakanani lesingabikela yena umbukeli ngale kwaloko Thombeni naye umbukeli imigwaco elivela kangwane yahambe kangaphandle nje kwaleti sesishido sithikabeto kungabafisela yena umbukeli lusuku loluhle naloluphephile baseta usebenzisa yona imigwaco elivela kangwane.
Kuyavakala sibonga kakhulu uNtolo kusivetela leyo mbiko lomhla ekseni ngu 1 minutes before 7 asasilkhefu sibe netindzabata ngephandle.
Ujala masada mahle kunathi lesa.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokho
sive sithi khulumeni
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at international news this morning. Israeli strikes on northern and central Gaza killed and wounded dozens on Saturday, with buildings and shelters destroyed. Meanwhile, residents and medics said Israeli forces are tightening their siege on the Jabalia refugee camp, where thousands of trapped Palestinians are trapped.
Here in Gaza City, in the northern part of the Strip, this is all that's left of a school-turned-shelter in the Al-Shati refugee camp, after an Israeli airstrike hit the area. Residents say they were sitting in a classroom inside, several of them children, when the explosion struck.
There was a woman in a wheelchair with us who was previously injured in Jabalia. She was killed in the explosion. She has children, but we don't know what happened to them.
This school, as we can see, is sheltering displaced civilians. Most of them fled from northern Gaza and sought refuge here because they had no other place to go. They couldn't find any shelter except this school, and tragically, they lost their lives here.
Over in the enclave center in Deir al-Balah, Palestinians bid farewell to their loved ones outside Al-Aqsa Hospital, who were killed after an Israeli airstrike struck the neighboring Al-Maghazi refugee camp the night before.
More than a year has passed, and every day our blood is shed, and we are slaughtered. Why? A whole year has passed, and we are still suffering. Every day, every hour, there is a massacre. This is what our lives have become. We are already the living dead.
This comes as Israel's military have besieged the densely populated Jabalia refugee camp for weeks after launching a new offensive, leaving around 400,000 people trapped inside the camp with little food or water. This as the US has threatened to cut off some of its military assistance to Israel unless it boosts access to humanitarian aid. Israel's military humanitarian unit released this video, saying it showed aid being airdropped into Gaza, though news agencies have not yet been able to verify it. The Hamas-run Gazan Health Ministry says the death toll for Palestinians has now crossed 42,500.
Some observers say Israel is attempting to promote internal divisions in Lebanon as part of its campaign against Hezbollah. But even amid a devastating war, some Lebanese see an opportunity to unify the country.
Among the many airstrikes inflicted on Lebanon by Israel in its war against Hezbollah, most have targeted the south of Lebanon and suburbs of Beirut, largely Shiite Muslim areas where Hezbollah has support and infrastructure. But a few, like this one in the northern village of Aitu, have occurred in remote areas with mixed or Christian populations, places that seem to have little to do with the war raging further south. This rubble used to be a building that housed an extended family of refugees displaced from southern Lebanon. On Monday afternoon, a missile leveled it, killing at least 22 people, mostly women and children, according to the UN. Israel has not commented on this or other similar strikes, but the message seems clear to many. To be close to Shiite Muslims, also known as Shia, is dangerous.
I think that it's an Israeli effort to isolate the Shia community and to make them toxic in the wider Lebanese context. They want Hezbollah and its supporters to basically understand that within Lebanon, they're on their own against Israel.
For many years, Hezbollah was the most potent political force in Lebanon. Now, severely weakened, there are fears that a power vacuum could lead to further instability. Fears that Israel understands well.
You have an opportunity to save Lebanon before it falls into the abyss of a long war that will lead to destruction and suffering like we see in Gaza. It doesn't have to be that way.
This video, titled A Message to the Lebanese People, was widely seen inside the country as an incitement to civil conflict.
The recent speech of Netanyahu to the Lebanese, saying that unless you rein in Hezbollah, will transform Lebanon into Gaza, is a direct, if you'd like, attempt at trying to create a rift between the general Lebanese public and the Shia community.
Privately, many in Lebanon express resentment towards Hezbollah and its supporters, and fear of being caught in Israel's strikes on the Shiite community. The memory of Lebanon's civil war in the 1970s and 80s is still fresh.
The idea of going back into a civil war, a sectarian civil war, is really something that no one in the country wants, no one. So we have to understand that within Lebanese society, there is an ingrained rejection of anything that may lead to sectarian strife.
Even in Aitu, with rescue workers still searching for the dead, residents try to balance their fear against a desire for unity.
People are scared. Of course, we're all Lebanese. There's no difference between us and them.
Some see an opportunity at the end of this war for the state to wrest back some of the control that Hezbollah has built up in recent years.
Definitely there are opportunities, but I think it would be a big mistake for America and Israel to try to impose this from outside, because this will allow Hezbollah, in fact, to push back and to basically say that both are trying to impose a new reality on Lebanon.
It is another of Lebanon's paradoxes that Israeli aggression is managing to both sow division and build unity.
Moldovans are voting twice on Sunday, 20 October, in two elections that will determine the future not only of the country between Romania and Ukraine, but also of the region as a whole. A look back at the history of a former Soviet republic seeking independence.
Sandwiched between Ukraine and Romania, Moldova doesn't share a border with Russia, but Vladimir Putin's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 sparked concern that it could be next. With its small population of around 2.5 million, Moldova emerged as an independent republic following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. And like a number of former Soviet countries, it's spent the last 32 years seeking to rebalance its relations between Russia to the east and Europe to the west. Along Moldova's eastern edge runs the region of Transnistria, a pro-Russian pocket that declared its independence after a deadly conflict in 1992. The separatist government has never been officially recognized by the international community or by the Kremlin, but the region's politics and economy are heavily influenced by Moscow, and Russia has maintained a permanent military force there since the fall of the Soviet Union, against the will of Moldova's government.
Getting the Russian troops out of the Moldovan territory has always been the position of the Moldovan state, and it will continue to remain.
In December last year, the EU decided to open accession negotiations with Moldova. It's one of the continent's poorest countries, and President Maya Sandu is keen to push the country towards membership. For Ursula von der Leyen, the feeling is mutual, the President of the European Commission even announcing 1.8 billion euros in aid for Moldova this month.
I believe that Moldova's place is in our European Union.
But despite this pro-European drive, the country is increasingly divided between its pro-Western and pro-Russian factions. The weekend's presidential election and EU referendum are new opportunities for Moscow to interfere in the politics of the former Soviet republic.
Cuba's efforts to restore power to the island were derailed for a third time late on Saturday, Cuban authorities said shortly before midnight, leaving millions in the dark and raising fresh questions over the viability of the government's bid to re-establish electrical service.
The day after the failure of one of Cuba's major power plants, which triggered a blackout across the entire country, many of the island's residents were still without electricity. Some living in Havana have struggled to cope.
We don't have gas, we don't have electricity, we can't use our electrical appliances, and there's no electricity, which makes life very difficult for us, especially since we have a little girl. For example, everything in the refrigerator goes bad, so just in terms of food, we're very much affected.
It's going to be 12 hours of blackout, and it's difficult for the children. Food is very difficult to find. All I can say is that I thank God every day because at least we are alive.
Residents have been dealing with rolling blackouts for months, which the Prime Minister has blamed on declining infrastructure, a lack of fuel, and growing demand among Cubans. Electricity shortages had already led officials to suspend non-vital government services hours before the grid's collapse.
We are used to enduring everything in life because we can't do anything else. We have to get used to all these blackouts.
On Saturday, one of the country's state-run media outlets reported that the national grid had gone down for a second time. But according to the government, Headway has been made with gradually restoring electrical service, including to hospitals and parts of the capital. And the country's energy minister said on Saturday that 2 power plants were back online. The power outages come as another knock for residents on the communist-run island, who are already facing shortages of basic supplies, including food, water and medicine.
Gun violence victims and gun owners are expressing very different views on how the next occupant of the White House should tackle gun violence in the United States. The Democratic and Republican presidential nominees have made their stances clear on the matter, and voters will soon have their say at the ballot box.
Frank Cimarelli's son, Camden, acquired 3 firearms legally in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, before using one of them to shoot himself in December 2022, dying 5 weeks later. Camden's father became an advocate for more thorough background checks.
The stack of records that he has at the hospital, it's over 6 inches thick. It's over 1,200 pages. And when he bought a gun, nobody looked at it. And it would have said for the last decade he was threatening suicide.
Gun suicides in the United States reached a record high in 2023. 27,300 people took their own lives using a firearm, according to provisional data by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Hoping for tighter gun safety measures, Cimarelli will vote in November for the Democrats, who've made the matter a campaign priority. Wisconsin voter and firearm trainer Eddie Silas understands the need for gun laws, but isn't in favor of stricter ones being imposed.
Criminals, I'm gonna say even terrorists, they don't care about gun laws and the enforcement of gun laws. So all it does is restrict our rights as gun owners to be able to protect ourselves and our family.
Stricter gun laws can save lives, says Nick Maruszewski with the nonpartisan Wisconsin anti-violence effort.
We would heavily push for extreme risk laws, a procedure to remove firearms from individuals that are deemed to be threats to themselves or others.
Vice President Kamala Harris, a gun owner herself, promises to pass the so-called red flag laws if elected president.
I am in favor of the Second Amendment, and I believe we need to reinstate the assault weapons ban and pass universal background checks, safe storage laws, and red flag laws.
Former President Donald Trump, who is running for re-election, vows to loosen restrictions and calls into question Harris's stance on guns.
She's always said, we will confiscate all guns. Now she's saying, oh, no, guns I think they're wonderful, right? Doesn't work that way. They're going to confiscate your guns.
Contrary to Trump's comment, Harris has said she seeks reasonable gun safety measures and is, quote, not trying to take everybody's guns away. Indoor shooting range co-owner Mark Rebholz, an independent voter, sees universal background checks proposed by Harris favorably. But he doesn't think banning assault weapons such as the AR-15 would help curb gun violence.
You can get handguns with 30-round magazines, 33-round magazines, 50-round magazines. So as far as the capacity goes, there's so many other options besides the AR.
Rebholz, who'll vote for Trump in November, believes enforcing the gun laws already in place is the best way forward to prevent more deaths. Nationwide, however, about 6 in 10 U.S. adults say it's too easy to legally obtain a gun, according to surveys conducted last year by the Pew Research Center and Gallup.
Recent comments by former President Donald Trump about the U.S. having an enemy within that needs to be dealt with have sparked a new wave of criticism by his opponents. But the heated rhetoric that both the Republican and Democratic presidential nominees use on the campaign trail comes with a warning from analysts. It may hurt their chances to win the White House.
With early voting underway in several states, Vice President and Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris addressed reporters Saturday, intensifying her criticism of her political opponent, former President Donald Trump.
Donald Trump has proven himself to be increasingly unstable and unfit.
Harris has described Trump with those words repeatedly since the Republican presidential nominee made controversial remarks on Fox News on October 13th, when interviewed about a potential second term in the White House. Trump was asked how he'd guard against bureaucrats undermining him. He replied, quote, "We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within." He added, "We have some sick people, radical left lunatics, and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military." Trump later clarified he was referring to his Democratic opponents, but repeated similar claims when interviewed on October 16th by the Wall Street Journal. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, a Republican, was asked on ABC's This Week show to share his opinion on Trump's remarks.
Nobody likes that type of stuff and that type of hyperbole, but let's look, he was president for 4 years. Did he go after his political enemies? I don't think he's going to go and weaponize. He didn't do it the first term. He's not going to necessarily do it this term.
The increasingly heated rhetoric used by both presidential candidates to blast each other isn't necessarily a winning formula to sway votes. Political analyst Shannon O'Brien told VOA.
I think it has the potential to be problematic if you go over the line and you disgust people who are kind of in the middle. I think there might be some people that stay home and cross their arms and are just fed up with the entire process.
O'Brien says there are few undecided voters at this stage of the race, but the campaigns aren't ready to give up on winning them over. Trump is scheduled to hold campaign events in North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada this week. Harris, who turned 60 on Sunday, is expected to hold a series of moderated conversations Monday alongside former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan in a bid to earn the support of swing voters, according to a campaign media advisory.
President Joe Biden said Thursday that the death of Yahya Sinwar was an opportunity for a political settlement between Israelis and Palestinians. Biden spoke shortly after the Israel Defense Forces said it had killed Sinwar, mastermind of Hamas's terror attack on Israel on October 7, 2023.
For years, as Hamas top leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar built up the militant group's military capabilities. Since the U.S. designated terror group's attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, Sinwar has been hiding in tunnels like this one. But on Thursday, Israel said they killed Sinwar in an operation in South Gaza. They released a video showing what they said was his final moments.
To the people of Gaza, I have a simple message. This war can end tomorrow. It can end if Hamas lays down its arms and returns our hostages.
President Joe Biden was en route to Germany when the news broke. He called Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to congratulate him on getting Sinwar.
Now's the time to move on to move toward a ceasefire in Gaza, ensure that we move in the direction that we're going to be in a position to make things better for the whole world.
Israel's military campaign has targeted Hamas leadership, but has also killed tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians. Biden's call to end the fighting was reiterated by his Vice President Kamala Harris.
It must end such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
Families of Israeli hostages still held by Hamas say Sinwar's killing brings more urgency for a ceasefire deal.
Their lives are in great danger now, more than ever. We're calling on the Israeli government and the U.S. administration to act swiftly and do whatever is needed to reach a deal with the captors.
But despite increased pressure on the Netanyahu government, ending fighting in Gaza may not be Israel's main focus right now.
Israel's focus and America's focus is in Lebanon because there's opened up an opportunity to weaken Hezbollah greatly. And this is something that all the American allies in the region, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, etc., are very interested in.
Battered by a year of Israel's military campaign, Gazans say Sinwar's death will unlikely end the year-long war. As Israel hunts down Hamas militants, UN experts say over 1.8 million people, almost 90% of Gaza's population, are experiencing crisis levels of hunger. The findings come after the Biden administration warned this week that U.S. military aid might be cut off unless Israel addresses the humanitarian needs in Gaza. Supplies were airdropped over Gaza Thursday. UN officials said aid has been critically low since Israel's renewed offensive in North Gaza cut off lifelines there.
Billionaire Elon Musk promised on Saturday to give away $1 million each day until November's election to someone who signs his online petition supporting the U.S. Constitution, and he wasted no time awarding a $1 million check to an attendee of his event in Pennsylvania aimed at rallying supporters behind Republican Donald Trump.
Since early October, tech billionaire Elon Musk has been trying to encourage swing state voters to sign a petition in favor of free speech and gun rights. And he's been using his most persuasive asset, his money. His pro-Donald Trump Political Action Committee has been paying $47 to every registered voter who signs. But on Saturday, he said the media weren't paying enough attention to his petition, so he upped the ante. Anyone who signs in the largest swing state of Pennsylvania will now get $100, and a lucky few will get much more.
So I have a surprise for you, which is that we're going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election.
Although he had previously vowed to stay out of politics, Musk has adopted deeply right-wing stances since taking over Twitter, now X, in 2022. Over the summer, he endorsed Trump and has ramped up various means of support for the candidate, including donating at least $75 million to his pro-Trump super PAC. Musk's America PAC has paid to run ads on Facebook and Instagram for voter registration, but has come under fire for only collecting detailed personal data on people from battleground states without helping them to register to vote. On X, Musk has repeatedly praised Trump and pushed false and inflammatory claims on topics including immigration, free speech, and voter fraud. In return, Trump has offered Musk a hypothetical high-level position in the as-yet unestablished Department of Government Efficiency.
The United States and its allies are pressing ahead with efforts to enforce U.S. sanctions on North Korea, despite what they describe as a lack of cooperation from Russia and China.
The Canadian Air Force is patrolling the waters off China's coast, a hotspot for sanctions evasion. This is where ships move oil to North Korea, defying UN Security Council resolutions. This Canadian crew is part of a broader sanctions enforcement effort by the U.S. and 10 of its allies. Major Doug Publicover is the commander of the Canadian crew.
It's our piece of the pie to contribute to the prevent some of the illegal ship-to-ship transfers, which are petroleum products into North Korea.
When a suspicious ship is spotted, the crew flies low, gathering evidence that could lead to ships being deflagged or seized. It's the kind of quiet operation that's been happening for years.
Most of the time these flights happen without attracting big global headlines. But one country that is noticing is China.
Soon after the mission begins, Chinese fighter jets appear, shadowing us for hours. These may be international waters, but we're in China's backyard. It's a backyard U.S. officials say is not adequately monitored, allowing North Korea to exceed its UN-mandated energy caps every year. China insists it is enforcing the sanctions, but also says they should be lifted. Russia, too, has grown closer to North Korea, restoring a mutual defense agreement and vetoing the renewal of a UN panel that monitored sanctions enforcement on Pyongyang. The U.S. and its allies this week announced a new body to replace the panel, but it won't have UN support, raising questions about its effectiveness.
There's no way that the US and its allies on their own can enforce UN sanctions so long as China and Russia are not willing to go along with such a process. But nonetheless, it can be a very useful mechanism by which to name and shame.
Doing that relies on these flights, which gather information that governments can then use to impose more sanctions.
It's a continuous circle. They give us information, we give them reports, and builds on the picture, and like I said, the ultimate goal to be the deterrence and the enforcement of the sanctions.
How well it can work without help from China and Russia is another question. But for now, the U.S. and its allies are trying to uphold these UN sanctions alone.
When it comes to military equipment being sent to Ukraine, big-ticket items like Patriot missiles and F-16 fighter jets come to mind. But for many Ukrainian soldiers, the U.S.-made 60mm M224 mortars, also used by the U.S. Marine Corps, have been highly effective against Russian forces.
The US-made M224 mortar is a lightweight weapon that's not only highly mobile but also capable of rapid fire.
Fire!
The US Army adopted the M224 in the late 1970s, and the Army and the US Marine Corps still use it today. Ukrainian troops began using it in the summer of 2022 to hit targets over 3,000 meters away. This Ukrainian master sergeant, who goes only by the call sign Fatal for security reasons, is showing his comrades how to operate the M224 mortar at a training ground in eastern Ukraine.
In my subjective opinion, this is one of the best mortars I've ever worked with.
Fatal is from the city of Kovel in the Volyn region in northwestern Ukraine. A trained geodesist, he volunteered to join the armed forces in 2014 and has been fighting Russians on and off since then. In the winter of 2023, he joined the 3rd Assault Brigade and fought in Bakhmut and Avdiivka, where he used the M224 mortar for the first time.
During assault actions in Avdiivka, I was able to effectively conduct defense with the mortar while being just 200 meters away from the enemy and staying mobile. I would quickly set up the mortar on the base plate, fire off, and retreat to cover. I had only one person providing cover the entire time.
Sight! Got it!
The mortar teams on the ground operate in tandem with aerial reconnaissance units.
Fire!
U.S. weapons such as the American Browning M2 and M240 machine guns provide fire support for the mortars, says this machine gunner, who goes by call sign Zoman and is also from Volyn.
Together with the infantry, this fire support can occupy higher positions. Its primary goal is to suppress the enemy with fire, and in cases of direct engagement, it provides fire superiority.
The Ukrainian mortar teams have been highly effective in the field. It is a lesson not lost on the Russians. A Ukrainian military expert reported this week that Russia is also receiving millions of mortar rounds from North Korea.
In Chad, the media regulator has suspended a weekly newspaper and 2 of its journalists for alleged misconduct, and it has urged all other media outlets to comply with new regulations ahead of elections in December.
As Chad approaches its December elections, its media regulator, the High Authority for Media and Audiovisual, or HAMA, has accused media managers of violating the law by posting unauthorized videos on social media. During a training session for election observers earlier this month, on Tuesday, October 8th, Hama's chief outlined the new regulations.
I am announcing to online newspaper managers who switch to audiovisual content without authorization and any citizen interested in launching such a media that HAMA provides the guidelines for establishing and operating web TV and radio TV. Additionally, I remind everyone that an individual or entity may hold up to 3 media outlets in total.
Abderrahman Barka said the new restrictions were imposed to improve accountability among media professionals.
In today's world, anyone can become a journalist, but we must uphold high standards of practice.
According to the Press Freedom Advocacy Group Committee to Protect Journalists, shortly after the statement, Hama suspended the weekly newspaper Le Visionnaire for 3 months over its report on government mismanagement and 2 of its employees for failing to obtain official government press credentials. Many journalists say these measures are undemocratic.
The decision to suspend newspapers like this raises suspicions that there is an ulterior motive at play. It appears to be a trial balloon intended to muzzle the free press.
Freeman Sanjimbe, a journalist with Le Temps, a private weekly newspaper in N'Djamena, is concerned about the new restrictions as the country approaches elections. He says they feel like a form of punishment.
While sanctions can serve an educational purpose, excessive penalties turn into acts of retaliation. In doing this, Hama is undermining the press when its mission should be to support its growth.
Media advocates have condemned the Hama chief's statement and the regulator's decision to suspend Le Visionnaire and its journalists.
We will continue to operate as the law permits us to broadcast audiovisual content. We also condemn the suspension of Le Visionnaire. Suspending a print newspaper for 3 months effectively sentences it to death.
During an emergency meeting held after the Hama chief's directive, Thursday, October 17th, media organizations expressed their intention to explore all legal avenues to defend press freedom if Hama does not reverse its decision.
It's 29 minutes before 8. We've come to the end of our international news. Thank you for staying with us. We'll go for an ad break. When we come back, we talk all sports with Fabrice Musonera.
kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi
abaresearche bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna ukukhicita lokusembili.
Welcome back to the program. You're still watching Kusile Breakfast Show. This is the Monday edition. We get into now our sports segment. We do want to remind once again, maybe before we get into our conversation, that the weather conditions outside, it's still raining. If you're going to be driving out after this segment, please take those precautionary measures that we were advised on regarding pedestrians, as well as yourself for your own safety. Otherwise, we're still buzzing from an incredible football weekend, and today our sports segment with Fabrice Msonera. We want to break down all the key games, starting with the Eswatini Premier League, our very own broadcast of the Wanderers versus Sisonke FC game, which saw, of course, Sisonke stun the Highlanders with a 2-0 win in rainy conditions. And of course, Eswatini TV captured it all with fantastic production. We also brought you the Manchester United drama from the English Premier League, where a last-minute win saved the day for the Red Devils. Let's get into it with Fabrice Msonera. Fabrice, a very good morning to you. What a weekend it was. I saw you there in Hlangano, braving the cold, doing everything that you needed to do, asking the right questions, giving us an overview of the game. And I must say, I really enjoyed the game. Yeah. Did enjoy the commentary that you guys made with Linda, the guest from the Premier League of Eswatini, as well as, everyone that was involved. It was a fantastic broadcast. Just talk to me about that broadcast, your experience.
It's a beautiful thing, Swiso. Beautiful morning once again to you, to the viewers at home. Yeah, it was the milestone we've been talking about, both Eswatini TV and Premier League of Eswatini coming together to ensure that the viewers at home do get a chance to watch the the Premier League, the local football. And you know what? The full focus was on that game because majority you've watched your South African teams play on Saturday. You watched your teams playing on Saturday locally, be it Swallows, be it Moneni. So, Sunday really, the full focus was on that game. Even those who don't support Mbabane Highlanders and Sisonke, they had to watch the game because that was the main focus. And I think the viewership in terms of those who were watching was quite incredible. Thanks to the production team here at Eswatini TV, not only me who was in front of the screen, but I think the people with the most work, they had to do a lot in the rainy conditions, where the people behind the camera, because there's a lot had to be done. You talk about ensuring that while you're giving the pictures for the viewer at home, the equipment is also safe and everything. But in a few conversation I've had with the Premier League officials, they were quite impressed because when we were at the stadium, there was a screen outside, so we were watching from the screen, and we could also watch from the field.
It was a very engaging podcast.
They were saying, this is beautiful. Even the teams, some of the Nyakumbura Pans Mkulisi, the assistant coach of Mbabane Highlanders, is like, hey, ground in confused. So it was a beautiful
get
production.
To see the replays as well.
So what a production. And I think we can always convince the viewer at home that it's going to be even better, even the next one.
That's a great promise because I didn't even see any points of improvement myself from just sitting at home. But again, congratulations to everyone that was involved in that production. But look, man, Sisonke pulling off a shock 2-0 win over Wanderers. I believe a lot of people thought that Wanderers was going to win, myself included. I want to admit that I was wrong. What went wrong for Wanderers in this game?
There's a lot. The coach did talk, Mtunzi Kiniza did talk that the absence of 8 key players in that game did affect them. And another thing that showed me that everyone was watching the game is that after the coach had spoken, everyone went on just to talk about what the coach had said, that he was looking to step down after that 90 minutes. And there are some threats that are being faced by the club director, Ali Homongwe. So I think for me, more than anything, Sisonke came to the game knowing that they are an average side, so they have got nothing much to lose. They will have to give it all in terms of attacking their numbers, defending their numbers. But for Highlanders, I think there was that a bit of a confidence to say we're a big side, but they forgot that this is a different situation. It's a league. They are playing a new promoted side that have got nothing to lose. Yes, they are losing 8 key players, but I think also if you look at the chance created in that game, especially maybe in the first half, we won't read in too much. But you have to look at 16 corners. It tells you that offensively they were quite good. But there's an issue in terms of the finishing aspect. They couldn't.
On the corners?
Yes,
just
on
like
the corners.
This
one, Tabiso Mokowenk, the number 7, their striker. Talk about Bo Fabrice Mopina. They created chances, but in terms of converting them, it was a problem. But if you look at how they considered this goal, I mean, this is not how you defend. You can see the pressure is adding, and then you keep playing the ball backwards.
This mistake is a terrible mistake.
And then good pressure applied by Sisonke in this incident because
18-year-old.
Yeah, they're very young. That's what you get from teams like this. And then this is a very clean penalty, spot on to ref on the day. just giving that penalty, and the finishing, fantastic in the tight corner, and that was the lead. 81 minutes into the game, you leagued in.
Beautiful visuals, man.
Beautiful
From
visuals.
The wide to the close up, everything was just beautiful. Yeah.
So then the few supporters who were in attendance, they could tell that, you know what, this is the end of the road for a team like Mbabane Highlanders. And I think I did say that, and I did ask the coach to say, for me, since I started watching Mbabane Highlanders for the past 15 seasons, I think this is the worst starting, in 5 games, where they have got only 4 points out of 15.
Well, they need to sort out the issues at home.
They need to sort out, there are issues. Yeah, there are issues at the top in terms of the
administrative issues.
Yeah. So, and the coach.
Where's the song from?
Fairview, Manzini.
So it's a Manzini side.
Yes, a Manzini
I want us
side.
to go into Mbabane because while Mbabane, they lost for Mbabane, Swallows still secured a win and brought a bit of joy to Mbabane. Great to win 1-0 over Green Mamba. They seem to be building some momentum. Do you think they are positioning themselves as serious title contenders?
That's what you need from them. These guys, I think that's they're telling us that heavy defeat from CAF Champions League, they have learnt a lot. If you look at how they build up into the game, how they just the confidence within the players, besides the issues that we've heard that players have not received their salaries for September. I think for me, if they keep like this to finish the first round of the season, I think they will defend the title. Coming to the game, yes. The only team that I can say at the moment that could stop them from where they are right now was Green Mamba, because the Young Buffaloes I don't really think they have got what it takes right now. Maybe the second
They'll meet
round.
again.
They'll meet again. Young Buffaloes haven't really been convinced. Red Leopard haven't been convinced. Yes, I know it's early in the season, but I think the only team that could really put a friend to what they are doing was Green Mamba.
Young Buffalo's not convincing you, but they did deliver another strong performance. That 2-1 win over Munini Pirates. Buffaloes and Rangers both on fire. How do you see the local title race shaping up?
Credit to Munini Pirates. I was at the stadium at Mavuso on Saturday during that game. Credit to Munini Pirates for that performance. I know they lost, but I think they need to there's a bit of changes they need to make in terms of their striking forces. So I think if they can score goals, they're building up the ball very well. I think if you can ask even Buffaloes, they were very, very worried in that game because of what Munini Pirates was doing. So I think if I'm not mistaken, their next game is against Mbabane Swallows. So Coach Christophe Enini, the former Mbabane Swallows coach, now coaching Munini Pirates, he's saying that they have learnt a lot from that game heading into the Mbabane Swallows game. So I think credit for their performance, even though they couldn't get 3 points. But
Munini Pirates' next game
is against Mbabane Swallows,
It's going to be an interesting one, and I'm looking forward to that one. But I want us to talk about Rangers and Eswatini United. They treated us to a 5-goal thriller. Rangers edging it up by 3-2. How important is the result there for Rangers, and could we see them making a top 4 push?
When Coach Mtunzi left, the one who's coaching Mbabane Highlanders now, people thought that maybe the DNA that he had installed in the club, like Rangers, was going to finish. But from what I've picked, Rangers is a good side. Rangers they're picking up the points. I'm not saying they'll be fighting for the title, but they're amongst the team to say we can save ourselves from relegation. So great performance. But I think the biggest shock of the weekend, it's that Ilov against Singh Hotspurs. Ilov walking away the 3 points. And I think I remember saying it on Friday that both teams to score. And then I think also the Buffaloes and the Munini Pirates game, I did say both teams to score. But for Mbabane Swallows, what a start to the season. 5 out of 5. The only team to get 100% victory into the season. Look at how far Red Leopard and Green Mamba have dropped into the season. So it tells you that if they can keep up the good work like this. Remember, the first round is going to be about 13 games. So they are 8 games away from the first carrot. So if they can play more 5 games like this, they are convinced that they can take the first carrot. But look at the worst start I'm talking about of Mbabane Highlanders. 12 in the league, 4 points out of 5 played games. And then if anything is to go by, I wouldn't say really, Eswatini United and Madlenya, they have got their own problems as well, which I think they probably are going down this season if nothing changes. But I think I've been impressed with teams like, so far, for that performance. Look where it dropped them, number 7. Munini Pirates, yes, they also have got challenges, but I think they'll pick up as the season goes. So, the table and the season is really shaping up very well. But serious concerns for a team like Baba Highlanders.
Yeah. Let's shift our focus now, Fabrice. Let's get into match day number 8 of 38 of the English Premier League. It was just as intense, beautiful results, but maybe let's start, it's only right to start with the Manchester United game. You know, a dramatic win, 2-1 against Brentford, saved from disaster. And I'm saying that because there is a Manchester United fan that we have in studio who reminded me that I did last week say I was going to mention Manchester United scored 10 times.
I did say both teams to score. I did say Manchester United to get 3 points on the day. I'm not really shocked with the results, so because they lack consistency, but they'll give you a good 2 games, but the next 4 games they'll have challenges. But what a weekend! A team like Spurs, it's a London derby, 4-1 against West Ham United. Fulham, Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa is one team that is showing signs of improving more than what we expected. Manchester United on home soil against Brentford, Newcastle, Brighton, Southampton, Leicester City. But I think for me, the shock of the weekend was that defeat against Bournemouth. For Arsenal, I think more than anything, and I've said this, I don't think really people what they're saying about Liverpool. I don't think really we're going to have to wait and see this coming weekend. I'm not saying Liverpool will beat easily Arsenal, but I think if you are to compare the two teams now,
Liverpool's better.
Arsenal is showing signs of re-cracking, and then it's a concern because I did say when we started the season that I don't think Arne Slot will drop the standard because the starting lineup he's using is just the same.
By we, what do you mean we?
We did talk about this before the beginning of the season. What this team is doing, it has nothing. There's nothing different from what Kroos used to be. The lineup is just the same. So
I'm just acknowledging that you are also acknowledging that you're an Arsenal fan.
Acknowledging that I won't be shocked if they go to Emirates and they walk out with 3 points. With what's happening in Arsenal,
we'll get to that one, but
shocked,
I really do want us to, speak about how, this kind of performance for United, is it sustainable for Eric Ten Hag's side?
No, they can't do it for 3 games in a row. They can't.
Thank you, because I was telling them.
Yeah, they can't.
You're celebrating a win against Brentford. You've been losing so much.
It's not because they can't even, the same lineup that played over the weekend can't play in the next game. There's always changes. So they can do this against Brentford. They come against probably Newcastle United, it's going to be a draw. And then when they come against Ipswich, they lose. So there's the lack of consistency. And this will silence the supporters for these remaining 7 days. But you never know what is coming in the next game. That's what the problem is. They can't keep up the performance like this. For teams like Aston Villa, what a performance. Spurs, what a performance. But for Arsenal, I think this is a sign that maybe they have to rethink again. I know it's early in the season. Changes will be made in terms of games. We saw the game against Wolves and Manchester City, nearly a draw. But in the last moment of the game, Stones with that beautiful finish to give them, even though there were controversy.
City, the only team that hasn't lost so far.
City, the only team that hasn't lost so far. But Liverpool, I think, is the best record because you've won out of all the games. They have only lost 1.
Let's talk about Liverpool because I really want to understand your thinking behind this consistent form that they are showing. Do you believe they are building a real case here for title contention, like a real solid case?
I think Slot came in with the mentality to say, if it's not broken, I'm not changing it. The only player that he bought was Chelsea from Inter Milan, and he hasn't really featured him much. So what he's done is just taken the same, almost the same lineup. I think the only thing that has matched that now Jota is more of a starting, striker than the remaining other players. But when you talk about the first 11, really nothing has changed. It's the starting lineup that we used to see from clubs. So that's why I'm saying that I'm not shocked with their 21 points out of 8 games instead of 24. The only defeat against Nottingham Forest, which I think. Going into the Champions League, they've got a 100% record in Champions League. They've got almost 100% record in the league. So for City, with those 2 draws, they're going to have to hope that maybe between Arsenal this coming weekend, Arsenal and Liverpool, it's a draw, and then they can get 3 points, which I think is going to be difficult. There won't be a draw. One of them has to win. Either Arsenal will get 3 points or Liverpool will get 3 points. But I'm
Make
really
me understand
worried
your
for
thinking,
Arsenal.
Fabrice, behind, of course, maybe projecting that Liverpool-Arsenal game. We watched literally 70 minutes of game between Arsenal and Bournemouth. There wasn't any goal there. And then in 9 minutes, we saw 2 goals. That's 70 minutes and 79 minutes. And that's Bournemouth. Yes, we hear talks about the red card, but do you think Arsenal can give Manchester that win that they are hoping for?
It's hard to tell. I think I was actually telling a few of the supporters, Arsenal supporters, that you get into this game. I know the squad is big. I know they've got in terms of reserve players. You get into the game against Liverpool. Yes, it's on home soil. You don't have Saliba, who's got now a red card. You don't have Odegaard. We're not sure about Saka if the fitness will be now. I'm not sure about Merino, the Spanish player that has been brought, if he really fits in directly into this English Premiership, because the speed and everything. So I'm a bit concerned, but there is a hope that they're a big team. They can make changes. They can make a few arrangements to make sure that I'll fancy a draw if anything is to go by. Yes, anything is possible, but I'll fancy a draw in that game. But for a team like Manchester United, you look at where they're standing, number 11 after 8 games into the season. It's really, really...
Number 11?
Yeah, number 11. Number 8, rather, with 11 points, Oh, rather, number 11,
Number
yes.
11, man. Yeah,
number
no.
11.
Number 8?
11.
Come
no,
on
I'm
now.
talking about
That's
the 8
Manchester
games.
United.
No, 8 played games. Sorry,
No.
8 played games.
How can you make such a mistake?
8 played games and
United
then 11
is number
points.
11. It can't be number 8.
But it's early in the season. I'm hoping that maybe they can finish in the top 10. They can finish in the top 10, but I don't see them playing Champions League. I don't see them. They are
finishing in the top 10.
That's
an achievement for them.
They are nowhere near an Aston Villa. They are nowhere near Chelsea. They are nowhere near Spurs.
Let's talk about Chelsea. Thank you for mentioning Chelsea. What went wrong for Chelsea? I think I was with a couple of Liverpool fans when we watched Arsenal on Saturday. And, a few Liverpool fans were like, we're playing at home, but we're scared of Chelsea. We don't have our hopes up.
And that's a credit for Chelsea. Like Swiss, I did say that when we started the season, Enzo did say, don't expect much. I'm building the team. So if they face Liverpool and they're able to get even that one goal, I think that's a better performance. I did manage to get a few of the highlights of the game, but I think I was impressed.
You happy with Chelsea's performance against Liverpool?
I was down there in Tlangano, but I was able to watch the game at the repeat. I was impressed.
I watched the whole game. I wasn't necessarily happy with the defense.
If you look at 6th position, if that defeat did not affect them, they could be still remaining in the top 4. But they're not far from the big guns. So I would say
that's a conversation I'd like us to have.
They could finish in the top 6.
Let's talk about top 10 teams. We can talk about Chelsea. We can talk about Liverpool, Arsenal, Aston Villa. But Manchester United, number 11. You talking about them being position 8. That's a bad statement to make early on a Monday morning.
I'm looking at the teams, so only Bournemouth. No disrespect for Bournemouth. But amongst the top 9 teams...
Ahead of Manchester United, by the way.
Yes. Amongst the top 9 teams, if you look at Aston Villa, Manchester United, nowhere near them. Brighton, a huge side. Chelsea, Tottenham, Newcastle United, Fulham, all these teams, even though they were able to beat Fulham in the first game of the season, but all these 9 teams are really, really better than Manchester United. If you had to put things into perspective, they're really better than Manchester United. So much work needs to be done.
We have at least 3 minutes, and I really want us to dedicate these few minutes to the GOAT, Lionel Messi, hat-tricks, back-to-back, him being awarded the GOAT status, and, that hat-trick internationally and in the MLS, and the offer they're getting now.
And mind you, there's a big announcement. I think, is it today? Yeah, it should be today or this week. We're going to have to see the Ballon d'Or winner this week. I know Vinicius is on the sheet. I think one of the key players is Vinicius. It's Bellingham. I think those are some of the players that one would say it should be tonight or this week. Yeah,
one of those two
to be confirmed. But I think this week it's the Ballon d'Or, confirmation. And I think Messi now playing in the US. He's the last winner of the Ballon d'Or, the only player to have won it so many times. So. Yeah, I think, and he's going to play, Club World Cup. So we might see him facing one of the European sides. So let's see how it goes. What a player!
But what about a guy who comes into a team with one of the worst records in its league? He makes this team position 1, and the most goals, the best ranked team now. He comes into this last game, 10 minutes remaining. He scores a hat trick.
not a surprise, but I think we also need to acknowledge the partnership of some of the players that always are on his side.
You know,
Jordi
people will
Alba,
make people will make
Sergio.
excuses about Suarez and Busquets.
Yeah, Busquets, Sergio, Alba. So these are some of the players that are behind him, and they know how he moves. Because if you look at the assist, I think for the second goal was Suarez, the other one was Busquets assisting him. So it's the combination, but let's not shy away from his brilliance. I think he's brilliant.
Absolutely, because when he enters in this last game, 10 minutes left, you know, and he scores this hat-trick, those players were in there, and they were not doing, you know, anything that really mattered in that game.
So he's just a genius. But I think I can't wait to watch him during the Club World Cup, and I think that's where the brilliance is going. The brilliance is going to show. He's going to face one of the European clubs, and we're going to see some beautiful performance.
So, are you saying that is going to be a big test for him because the perception that we have for the MLS is that the competition is not?
Yeah, I think more than anything, it's the perception that we have about the MLS and the Saudi Arabian League is that they are on a low level because we don't get to watch them daily, and their leagues are not that competitive. But I think these guys, this is why you see them, Cristiano and Messi. Whatever the case, they'll be still named in their national teams, even if they can play for the lowest teams, but they'll be still named and start.
Do they deserve to play?
Yeah, they deserve to play. They still have what it takes. I think they're a motivation for young players.
The question is, who do they beat without going into the, what do they call it, the intercontinental
competition?
Yeah.
No, but you mean who they face?
Is this a deserved, you know, sort of promotion?
For Messi?
For MLS.
For MLS. For MLS, yeah, because it's going to put them on the spot, Fiso. That's a good one. That's a good question. It's going to put them on the spot because now that you don't get to watch most of the time your MLS teams, so people want to see what Inter Miami can do when they face other teams. Yes, it does put some of the teams on the map. We've seen...
But do they deserve it?
They deserve it.
Okay.
Yeah. We've seen in the past New York Bulls when Henry was playing for them. You know, Atalanta when the likes of Ibrahimovic was still playing for them. So they deserve, it puts them on the map to say, let's see what they can do. And then they've got 5 to 6 players who played in one of the biggest team in the world, Barcelona.
Including the GOAT.
So it's a huge you know, improvement for the club like Inter Miami.
Including the GOAT.
Including the GOAT, yeah.
Thank you. I wanted you to say
I know you're a huge fan of Messi. Who's better between Messi and Ronaldo?
Is it still a question?
Yes, still
Come
a question.
on now, let's not waste airtime, Fabrice. It's a very good morning, Mswati Lamate. Wake up with us, Kusile Breakfast Show. This has been our sports segment. Maybe before I let you go, do we know which games we're going to broadcast next?
The weekend.
Yeah.
I think by the end of the day we should confirm to the real viewers. Yeah.
It's going to be announced.
Yeah.
Mswati Lamate, it's a very good morning to you, Kusile. Sibahlalele market sister uyazivale hlelo masinyane.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu sivile sive sikhulume
Yep, 2 minutes before 8 o'clock. So speaking it's a Monday morning, a rainy, cold Monday morning. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day.
the day you take Christ into your life, you begin to walk in a blessing.